What up, brothers? It's Clipper King returning with a little bit of something different. As you see, I've titled the video the BVS Batman Pose Tips and Tricks, simply because I've been sat looking at Facebook all day. Pretty much every time I pick my phone up, I've got a Black Friday fucking email, which is normally bullshit, and then I have a little look on Facebook, see what's happening there, just to see if anybody's found any decent bargains or all like that. But what I'm finding is a lot of people are receiving this figure, and obviously I'm happy for them. I've had it quite a while, and it is an awesome figure. I definitely think it's figure at year, and it rated very highly on my countdown video. And you see people sort of throwing up their early pictures, and obviously the figure's back in favour because so many people are now getting it. So like I said, I hope everybody that gets it enjoys it. But also another thing I picked up on, some people when they pose it, I just don't get it. Now it's hard to make a video like this without sounding like an arrogant prick, which I do a lot of the time anyway, but fuck it, I'm not saying it for that. I'm basically just cataloguing my thoughts on this figure and how I think it should be posed or shouldn't be posed, or just common things you see when people are posing figures, and how they can make a figure that looks so awesome, they can make it look unnatural, or they try and overload it with accessories and that sort of thing. I've left a few comments on Facebook, and I'm sure people think, fuck off Clipper, you've had your figure and enjoyed it, let me enjoy mine. Like I said, this is just my opinion, you don't have to watch the video, and if you do watch the video, you can still think, what a fucking wanker. Like I say, it's hard to make a video like this without sounding like you think you're fucking bee's knees, which I don't, but like I say, a lot of people have asked for pose ideas or my opinions on their poses, so I thought it's easy to do a video. It stopped me looking at Black Friday fucking mailing list fucking bullshit that I've been looking at the last 5 fucking days while I've been off, and I can actually spend some time with this figure, which I have done some slight modding on this morning, which I'll talk you through first, and also I'll talk about the, I don't know, like hero style poses or museum style poses, if you're going to go dynamic, that sort of thing, statuesque poses. I'll go through my thoughts and feelings on different poses and why people make some sort of, I don't know, anatomically incorrect poses, if that makes sense, but and also what goes through my mind when I'm posing. I will also use a substitute figure to show some poses that this figure won't do, but it will mainly be centered around this figure. Right, so I've had to shut curtains because that fucking sun were blinding me right inside of me fucking eyes. Right, so I'll quickly go through my figure and the things I've done to it. So, you see the boots are stock, do fit him. I haven't put the extended ankle pegs on. I don't really see a need for that one. I think it's tall enough, and I think if you're gonna put the ankle pegs on, then think about not displaying it outside of Superman, because I think it looks oversized with those pegs on. I know there is a mod out there where you can sort of buff out the calves so it'll fit the boot, and his legs will look a little bit longer. I think you can actually make the legs look long enough just pushing the suit right up into his crotch and keeping his legs pretty straight. So that's why I didn't do that mod. Moving up, this morning I have modded the belt. I wasn't going to do this one, but I thought the belt over time on mine starts to sit a little bit low, so I thought by changing the pouch position on the belt, it will give the look of a longer leg and sort of wrap round him more naturally. So basically what I've done is open the belt at the buckle. That one actually, that little cylinder actually a little bit too far to right as we're looking at it, so I've disconnected that, glued it a little bit more so it's actually touching the buckle, as you can see. I removed all 6 pouches, 3 on each side, and what I've done is I've reset the front ones a little bit lower, so the top is sort of in line with the belt. The next one a tad higher, as you see, and the back one a tad higher still. So that is what I've done, and it just seems to wrap around him more accurately, and it sort of sits in the position on his body where I want it to keep his proportions to look pretty good. So I did do that. If you remember, I did glue his sleeves in place because his sleeves sit a little bit high, so what you get is a rubber material in the elbows when they're slightly bent, as mine is. So that is pretty still stay tight and is a good mod. You just remove the glove, the gauntlet, you can just pull his costume right down and glue it. I also did it on the Sideshow Batman. It just makes the suit look a bit more taut on his arms. So that is a decent mod that I did do. Moving up, if you remember, I pulled the bodysuit down and glued around the neck so it keeps the bat in position. Again, that has stood the test of time. The cowl, even though his head is dipped all the way forward, still doesn't cover the bat ears, because a lot of time before that it was coming right down here, so it covering top at symbol. So again, that is a decent mod. Again, not for everybody. Some people don't want to put glue on the new figures, but I did. So I did do that. I also just give the silver wash into the recesses on his chest, so to give it the impression that is a bulletproof symbol on the suit, or the suit as a whole is bulletproof, and where the bullets have ricocheted off him has sort of left the silver drag marks. I will also say as well, whenever I film this figure, the silver catches the light from the camera and always looks a lot more silver than it does in hand, so bear that in mind. So I have seen pictures as well where that is movie accurate, but I've also seen pictures where that's not the case. So I think it all depends on the suit he was wearing at that time, and also the section of the movie that you see it from. So yeah, also today I have gone back and had another look at the cape. You remember I cut the cape down, and I also sort of singed around the edges to make it look really natural. Again, that was a decent mod. Not for everybody, like I said, because people don't want to do that sort of thing. But I think the cape, the length of my cape was right, but it never seemed to hang correct. Now, from the front, I'd show it you. As it drapes down, you see, still straight, and it actually curls under. Now, to get that to do that out of the box is very hard, because this section, the front part of the cape on either side, is quite thick because it is dual ply at that part, so it's hard to get it to kick under like that. So you've got to have the length right. Also, I think what you're better off doing, and this is what I've done today, I already cut to length like I said. I've actually took the cowl off, dipped the cape into boiling hot, red hot water, a bowl full of it, which obviously soaked through the material, made it more pliable. I've then put it back on the stand, but what I've done is I've used a technique that I was using on my Batman Returns. So if you look at my cape, pretty much the pleats sit really nice and neat, and it's weighted. The reason for that is, if I can show you without fucking up too much, in there's two girls' air slides. So what you get is, if you put your pleats into position, you're taking your cape in, and this is for Dean Knight as well, because he said he had problems with his Batman Returns cape. If you can fold it up nice at the back, put two women's air slides, look, when it's hanging you don't see it, if it's lifted up you don't see it, but they are holding the folds together. Also, because they are metal slides, it gives the cape a nice weight, as you see. So you see that drops down, it won't come out of that, so the cape, like I said, looking pretty nice. So turn it back to the front, and again the cape should drape a little bit more naturally than it does stock. The cape's a little bit long stock, so like I said, just pull it into position as if it's just touching the ground. So that is basically what I've done with mine. As you see, it is in an hero pose. Now, if I'm going for a pose like this, because it's not too dynamic, what I'm looking for is ultra realistic or ultra natural, and to be aesthetically pleasing. So by that I mean his legs. Now, there is a slight dip in his knee, because people, when they stand, they don't really stand straight legged. They'll like sort of stand with their hip weight over the feet sort of thing. So you could reposition the feet and it would still look pretty much an hero pose, but it's more the position of the knee. So I would put, bearing in mind these are slight ratchet joints on this, so I would try and get my knees to a position, if we look at profile, like that. They're not 100% straight, but that is how I like them. Oh, again, I did wet the lower part of the suit, and also I've sort of pushed all the suit right up into his crotch, take some of the weight of the suit round to the back, so nip it together at his arse, trap it in place with his belt, and that will take the suit right up into his crotch, which again gives him the impression of the longer legs. So I have done that with mine, I forgot to mention it. Right, going up, he's got a slight crunch, not very much. His shoulders are open out, so it gives him like a V shape. You could bring the shoulders forward and it would sort of push his chest together, but it makes him look round shouldered. So on this, I do like the shoulders pushed back. The head is dipped forward. That's simply because the eyes I've got on are the eyes that look up, and I've got the sort of the neutral face expression. So that is what I've got going on there. The lines of the cape is as close to his body as they will go, as you see. So that's pretty good. And then moving down the arm, a slight rotation with the bicep into the sort of lat area, so a rotation there, and then you want his arms probably on first ratchet click forward. So that is what I call natural. If you stand in the mirror and look at yourself, your body will look like that. Obviously not as ripped as that unless you're me, but then again it's still under about 10 layers of fat. But yeah, so quite a natural stance. The weight of his chest is over his hips, is over his feet, so pretty natural. Again, rotation inwards. Now, to make that pose look ridiculous, you could go, if you turned his arms so his biceps were straight forward, straighten his arm out, like so. Now, which side, let's look at the figure. That side just doesn't look right. If you look at it on that side, that looks more natural. So again, just by a slight movement in the arm, in fact, I'll pause that and I'll put both arms like that. So straight away, just with a little arm movement, it looks unnatural. You stand there, your bicep, sort of the tip of your bicep sort of points slightly inwards. It don't point straight forward. So that is no longer natural looking. You would have to force your arms to do that. Again, the fist straight like that. If your body was more, if your bicep, sorry, was more in, which it would naturally be, you wouldn't keep your arms straight. It would be more like that. And then the fists, again, they're not straight to the side, they're slightly rotated in. So just slight movements like that, for me, makes it look more natural. So I'll go back to what I would class as the natural position. So I classed that as more natural. Now, like I said, with opening the shoulders out or pushing the shoulders back and sort of up, it gives him the square shoulders, which leads into a V-shaped going down. Now, if you wanted to soften that, you would bring the shoulders forward, which would look like this. It's just a slight move forward with both the ball section or the deltoid, the shoulder muscles. You're pushing them now forward, which gives him like more a crunch position, or like a pec flex position. So you're bringing the arms round more in front of him, and like now, as you see, as it's moved together, the fists are pretty much pointing towards each other. So that is a more aggressive flex style position. Again, pretty natural, but I prefer the shoulders back V shape, so I'll go back to that position. Right, so I've got him on tripod now so we can look at different places as I'm posing him. So, like I said, this is what I would class as a museum pose. It's pretty much upright, there's no major stress on the suit. You've got him looking symmetrical, you've got him looking, I don't know, like a poster shot, so to speak. Like I said, there's slight variances that you could put an accessory on him, you could bring his hands together maybe. And also, I'm not just talking about this figure, I'm talking about a lot of different figures. Also, you can, as we move down, his feet are pretty much side by side. You could modify the art. So if I, for example, if I wanted to go straight on, what I would do is turn the back foot slightly away. The front foot I would keep facing towards. Hold on 1 second. See, now I've gone ultra straight legged. So I'm going sort of 3/4. So his feet now would be like that. If we look up him and butt him round, so he's looking more that way. So if I show you, that's gone sort of 3/4 that way. Now his lead arm, I have gone straight. You could also keep that, you could keep that tucked in as it were, but really it's just a slight adjustment on the feet. Feet is now sort of left foot slightly in front of the right, but the back foot is turned out slightly, so you're seeing that boot more from the side, but the lead foot straight on. I nearly always go for that in my poses, something like that. Again, the arms are still straight. Now obviously with this figure, because it has adjustable eyes, you could have it so his head was still facing straight forward like straight down the line of his chest, but his eyes just looking off this way. I've actually put a slight rotation through the cowl to bring it out. If I were trying to rotate it much more than that, because the cowl and the cape would get sort of awkward looking, I would probably go to the eyes for more of a turn. I wouldn't really go much further with the head than that, because like I say, you lose all the symmetry on it. So that would still class as an hero pose or a museum pose, but if you position it on a shelf where you want it to look slightly from that angle, then I would go to something more like that. Now, I'll move it on a touch. I'll put an accessory in his hand and talk about overloading, I suppose. Right then, next thing I'm going to talk about is overloading. Now this is a figure that is pretty fully loaded. If you remember the review, I actually got the tech cowl and the sniper rifle. Now I don't think I've ever displayed it with the sniper rifle, simply because it's not iconic enough for Batman for me, although there is an option there because it includes the rifle. But the point being is, when figures come and they're fully loaded, a lot of people, particularly when they first buy them, they feel like, oh, I've got to put it in cabinet, I can't put that accessory in bag, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick everything on it. I saw it with some figures which were pretty random, and I'm going back some years, and it had like got a gun in its hand, a gun wrapped around it, and then a fucking knife in its other hand and everything. I think, if you've got a gun and you're going to shoot somebody, why the fuck are you holding your knife? I don't like your knife as well in a suggestive position. Now, I've got a pose in my collection at the moment. This is pretty contradictory to that, but sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Now, for example, I saw a pose something like this earlier today. Now, I will say the pose weren't bad at all. The body proportions look good because it was positioned quite nicely. This isn't identical, but it was pretty much like this. Now, when I'm posing a figure up, I don't think, right, fucking throw everything on it. Everything that comes, throw it. In my mind, I'm thinking, right, it's Batman. I'm guessing certain figures normally come with a right or left trigger hand. That would dictate what handed that figure is. Now, I'm thinking Batman is going to be right-handed. Pretty ambidextrous, I would think, but I think if he were going to fire his grapple gun, he would do it with his right hand. Same with his grenade launcher. He would fire right-handed. The scene when he's sort of on that corner of that building and the fucking monster thing fires that laser at him, you think he swings his right arm back and to the side, he fires his grapple gun right-handed and swings away. So, for me, the reason that don't work is, I can't understand why he'd be carrying both. Now, as Batman, I would think, if that's not in use, then it's tucked somewhere on him. That is what I would think, so there's no need for him to be holding it. Because my thought is, and I actually put a comment on this, is his next movement from that is, if he's holding, his stock's out, so it's in a way that he's going to be firing. His next movement, once he's found a target from that position, is going to be to, he'd put his left hand under there to cradle it, and he'd bring it down into a firing position. Now, if he's got his grapple hook in that hand, that's pretty undoable, because he's got to throw his grapple hook down. So that is the reason I wouldn't really display it like that. Now, like I said, contradictory of me, something like that figure. As you see, he's got the machine gun in one hand, he's got the shotgun in the other, and I feel that that figure always looks overloaded. But when you think of the scene it comes from in the film, it's the scene where he's walking through the police station and he is actually wielding two massive guns. So it fits in theme. And even if you had one of the guns sort of pointed there, that one tucked up behind him, pretty much like that one is on the other Terminator, or like that one, then it kind of makes sense. But some figures, like I say, you've got them stood like, I'm going to stab you, but I've got a gun in my other hand. Why would he be going to stab somebody if he's got a fucking gun? He's surely got to shoot them first, wouldn't he? Again, contradictory. The Dread. Nah, that is a similar pose. The reason I keep the knife on it is because I've only got those two hands that fit that figure. So he's holding the gun, obviously. He's got it up to his face. He's holding the knife in his left hand simply because I haven't got a relaxed hand for that. So it looks worse if he's not holding anything in that hand than it would than the fact it's overloaded, if that makes sense to you. So that is the reason that is displayed in kind of an overloaded position. So, just going back to Batman. For me, if he's in that position, the better idea would be to go something like this. So just done a slight movement to the gun, sort of rotated his hand, so it's sort of parallel with the side of his head. Obviously not the most articulated arms in the world on this figure. I've took out the grapple gun, gone to a relaxed hand, put a rotation through his waist so he's actually turned to his left, and then with the cape, obviously because it's pinned at the bottom, it doesn't flare right out, but I would then drag the cape around him, because then it gives the it gives more an idea that he's not in action. What he's doing is sort of, if you picture him stood on some kind of rooftop, the wind's blowing through him, he's actually picking out his next target, and then it becomes sort of a look from a museum pose, but moving into an action pose. You're showing one of his accessories, not all of them obviously, and it goes to a very statuesque kind of pose. Now the next pose from there would be down with the hand to cradle with the left, so I'll go to that next. So then you've gone for the launcher two-handed. He's holding the barrel with his left and obviously the trigger with his right. Again, like I said, I would only bring the head to about there, and then I would have swapped out the eyes to the eyes that look left, so he would then be looking at you from there, which again, I've not moved the feet at all, but the feet still work because he's got his weight spread evenly. Kind of like a boxer stance. If you're thinking you're going to fire something, you don't fire it sort of feet together straight on. You're going to spread your feet, get yourself balanced, put your back foot back, lead foot forward, and go more to a position like that. Now, because it's a launcher, you would have it sort of held quite low down. I could pull the stock further back if I chose to, so it would come into here. Like I say, you wouldn't really bring the launcher up and to the side of your eye. With a sniper rifle, you probably would. But then it's just a case that you would bring the elbow up and forward there. You would dip his head down into it, and then obviously with the eyes looking the other way, and then his cradling hand, put a bend in it so the gun would sit here. That's what you would do, and obviously then he's looking along the line of the gun and into the sides. But like I said, because it's the launcher, he would hold it quite low, because the kickback, he won't want that into his face, so that still makes that pose pretty natural. Now, one-handed firing, I'm going to go on to that next. I'll talk you through what I think about if I'm holding the gun sort of one-handed away from the body. Right, so now as you see, he's holding the grapple gun. You can see, you're looking pretty much straight down the barrel. You can see, although his eyes are probably not as straight as they should be, you get this sense that he's looking at what he's firing at. So if I were to look at that from the side, I've got a position like so. So again, got the right foot forward this time, got his weight spread, back foot away. He's using the left arm to sort of steady himself. That's where he's got the relaxed hand on. I don't see a point of him holding another weapon there, because if he's at this point, he's firing the grapple up, he wants to go somewhere. Now, reason I wanted to do a one-handed pose is because what you get a lot of time is this. You get your bicep, most people will go bicep straight up, so that you think if his elbow's bent, the bicep is like that. Now, what I'd say is, go and stand in front of a mirror, or just look at your body, bend your right hand. Even now, me bent holding this camcorder, my bicep is not straight up towards ceiling like that one is. Your biceps don't really move like that. Your bicep actually sits more like that. To really turn your bicep out there, you would have to strain your shoulder to do it. The natural sitting position for your bicep is always slightly in towards your chest, so more that position. So if you get his bicep in right place, extend the elbow. Obviously now you want the gun to be where you want it to be, but what I would say is then rotate the wrist, because obviously if I'd have straightened it out, his forearm would have been in wrong place. It would have been sort of underneath, where your forearm would still be away from you. Your tricep would be at that position, and your bicep would be in. So I think that is anatomically correct for how your arm would sit. It wouldn't be away, and even this arm, because of how the bicep would sit, should really be in and down like that. That would be correct, I would think. So that's another popular one. People will turn the bicep too far over. Just don't look natural. Your bicep should be in there, attached sort of into front part of your shoulder. Hope that makes sense to you. So that's another thing I spot it quite often. Now, again, like I said, working with a certain figure, you could, and when I rate figures, articulation, I'm saying, is it good for the sort of suit it's got? Does the body underneath hold a position, so on and so forth? You'll find that a lot of time I give damn toys, I give their bodies really high marks. That's because you can get them in very natural positions, and all the joints are there. They have more joints. With this one, you pretty much got to do the best you can do with this, with what the suit allows you. So there's certain things that wouldn't work. For example, if I were to bring his arm up here and I wanted to have him in sort of a police two-handed pistol, let's say. So if I wanted to go like this, let me show you. I want the figure to stay like that. So it's holding a pistol type gun, and then cradling it with the left hand. What's going to happen on a figure like this? That. Simply because the suit doesn't really allow for that body to do that. Now, when I'm reviewing a figure, something like a damn toys figure or a true type that's not heavily clothed, it will do just about any natural position. So to display, so I'm basically using a customised damn toys with a spare J head. Now, sorry there's no hands on it because I've packed all my Gangsters Kingdom figures away. I'm clearing this collection all down. But you can see, because of how the arms work, the arm will go far enough across his body. If he was holding the pistol there, it would have another hand there cradling the gun. It does it and it holds it really nicely. And then again, if I move that position on, I wanted the dipped legs, sort of two-handed shooting pose, where that figure won't do it. This would go to something like, see now he's walking, got dip in his knee, his right arm is right across his body, as you see, and then the left arm would be cradling that pistol, where a figure like that won't do anything as dynamic as that. So again, you've got to make allowances for what the suit does, the accessories it brings, the hands it has, all that sort of thing. So that all goes into like me thoughts when I'm displaying a figure or posing a figure. Certain figures won't do certain things, certain figures will, so then you can get dynamic. Obviously I could then move that on again to something like that. Dropped his right knee down. Again, he's in a sort of freeze position. So again, the hand would easily touch the other hand. It still looks pretty natural because of all the articulation points. Again, a figure like Batman won't go to something as dynamic as that. So again, that's the shooting thing. You either go two-handed across the body if he's right-handed, or you go one-handed off to the side or out to the front. But again, keep your arms in natural positions. Tuck your bicep down and forward, if that makes sense. And you'll find that your poses look more realistic. And the pose I did basically with a one-handed thing, I call it the Rick Grimes pose. You look at Rick Grimes in a lot of Google photos, his arm is sort of full extended, a lot of tension in his arm, and even then, a lot of the time, the bicep is not pointing straight up, it's rotated forward. Right, so it's Batman back into his position that I'll be displaying him in. Like I say, no stress on suit. Quite a natural look for Batman, head forward. Fits the face and obviously keeps the suit looking nice and clean. So that is the pose I've gone with. But I did also want to talk about sort of other poses, and I'm going to go for like fight style poses, or sort of the body mechanics of fight poses and what I think about when I'm doing poses. Again, excuse the fact he's got no fists on, but this is how the body would be. And the reason I cover this is because somebody put some pictures of Muhammad Ali. It was a statue actually, in a position. Now I'll show you the position in a minute, and I want to explain why it were not accurate, and also how the body moves when, or how I move the body when I'm posing a figure in a fight style stance. So this would be sort of pose one, stance. So obviously he's orthodox, so he's got his left hand forward, his right hand would be in here, tucked in at elbow in to cover his ribs, tucked up here to cover the side of his jaw. So if he's got a glove there and one there. So that is a standard stance. Again, right foot forward, left foot turned sideways to balance. The reason it's like that is because you can move forward and back off your feet from that position. If you stand like that, sort of feet side by side, both face it same way, up like that, square shoulders, square hips, square feet, you're easy to push off balance. So that is, I know that for a fact, so that is why if I'm posing it, I would still pose it sort of accurate, so more like, so I can't pose it, so like that. That is how it would be stood. Left foot forward, right foot back, with his foot slightly turned out to the side. So like that. Now, I'll show you why the other pose were wrong. Right, so it were kind of like that. So, if the image weren't clipped or flipped, whatever you want to call it, and it weren't, because it still said Everlast on his trunk, so the writing were right way around, so they sculpted it sort of right arm forward, right foot forward. Now, where I described it is, it's wrong. It's totally wrong. The balance isn't there, because even if you're throwing a big right hand, you still won't go right foot forward. You go left foot forward and rotate at your waist. So if it were a right hand he were throwing, and there's reasons he weren't anyway, because the chin were tucked down like that, it was more like a jab position, and even wrong for Ali on that, because it will, like I said, it were like that. Now if it were a right hand he were throwing, his legs would be like this. So it would still be left foot forward, pushing off on the right foot and coming across with a right hand. So that is how it would have been, tucking the left hand back in. So his right foot would never have gone in front of that. So that is another reason why it were wrong. So again, if you're doing a boxing style pose, you've got a Mike Tyson or the Muhammad Ali that's coming soon, that would be accurate for a right hand. Now, the intricacies of Muhammad Ali wouldn't throw a right hand like that anyway, because it's an upright fighter. So it would be more like, that would be somebody like a Mexican style fighter, tucked up fighter. So always tight, shoulders up like that. Somebody, an upright boxer, would not be like that. It'd be more like this. So again, the chin is more up. He's not tucked into his shoulder. The feet are slightly closer together. So he's not really fully committed, dipped into it. And it's come round more as a right hook. So the movement in the right arm would be coming across there. The reason for that in an upright boxer is because they don't want to go full weight forward. They'd throw a punch, but they'd only throw what they call arm punch. So you'd only really have power from probably the hips through the right shoulder and into the right arm. The reason for that is because if they get counter-punched by a smaller fighter, they'll still be able to move in and out. So that is why the pose weren't accurate, and a little bit nerdy, just to show why that pose were incorrect. But going back to this, if it was a right hand punch that I was posing it in, I would sweep all the way around it like that. So he's still left foot forward, swing the arm all the way around in front of him, rotation through the waist, which I've done, but his head would still be looking that way because the target would be somewhere here. Will he stand at that? So more like that. So you've probably seen me pose me Tyson more like that, because that's sort of a right hook from an orthodox stance. Going back to a jab. Jab would be more like that, keeping his body quite long, not tucked up at all. Left leg nearly completely straight up, and then reaching out and to the side with the left hand. So it's distance, range finding. To go from that to a left hook, just the small intricacies I want to show. So I'll go put a bend in that hand as if he's throwing a left hook, but still would be left foot forward. He's gone from jab to left hook. Now, as you see, turning the hand over, although he ain't got no hands on. Elbow straight behind it, defending with his right hand. Rotation through the waist, this time towards, he's rotating right to bring that hook round there. If we show you that. Still left foot forward, but what happens to your legs as you spin that right hand is your left knee will dip in and you'll be more holding your weight on your back foot. So you can see his back foot's near taking all his weight, and that leg, you see it from front, that is also turned in. That's the momentum of his hip coming round, which would turn in like a golf swing as well. Similar sort of effect to that. Your whole body would turn, although your foot would still be planted. Now, reason I said before that you wouldn't stand feet together is because If somebody's throwing a left hook like that, as they turn, and watch a fight like Tyson against Holyfield, as Tyson turns onto a left hook, his feet come together like that, straight on. If Evander steps out this way and it's in with a left hook, that is when he's most off balance. So you're turning from there out and then you push straight back like that. So that is why the feet are like that, and that is everything I think about when I'm fucking posing a figure, which is sad, but it's just body mechanics. So I'll get back to Batman. Just to cover the reason I think about things like that, body balance and mechanics and things like that, because obviously I studied boxing, which you do show movements and balance and all this, that and other, but also because a lot of these figures we collect are superhero style figures, the dynamic poses that I would go for in a review to demonstrate how articulate it is would be something like this with a Wolverine, which is pretty much, if you look at it, all it is a right foot forward, so a southpaw stance, but coming round with a left hook. So he's thrown that, but also where it really, it would be tucked up if it weren't a comic book style hero, is going for a slashing. So you can see as he's walking forward, you can see he's pushing forward because of how his legs are positioned, pushing off of that back foot. He's already thrown the left, that's wrapped around him, and he's coming straight back with that one. So the next position from that would be that. So again, as his right hand comes forward, he's still in a walking position, so his left leg would then come forward, rotation again through the waist. So he's slashed with his left hand first, coming now with his right hand. As the momentum turns in his body, his left hand will go back. So again, you could take either one of them poses, would look quite dynamic, but in my mind I would see it as an action, you know, like a splash page in a comic book where you see Daredevil jumps out a window, then he hits this flagpole, he'll do a somersault and land. In my mind, this is what I see, and then it's just finding which is the best sort of pose to illustrate the point I'm trying to make about where his articulation points are good or where they're really limited. Now I've gone to Wolverine obviously because it fits the theme of what I was saying with the boxing style pose, but also I would say if, for example, that shoulder won't come round because of the armour, then I would pick it up in a review to say, really, I want his arm to come round here, and it will come. Look, go even tighter than that. It will rotate even more. So then I could say it articulates well because it will do what I want it to do. But if this shoulder stopped it from doing that, then that would be a point I would pick up on. So again, another decent pose, Wolverine theme. So not much more I can tell you. If there's any more points you want to make, like I say, it's hard to do a video like this without coming across as a fucking overconfident, arrogant prick. I don't want to do that, but I just want to tell you what I think about when I'm posing figures. So it's the character, what he will and won't do, the suit, you want to make the suit look nice and tidy, the accessories he brings, don't overload it, but try and display his coolest accessory, try and use the right hands, another obvious one. And like I said, think about where he's going to be on the shelf. So for example, if I'm displaying these, sorry there's no light on, I want them to stand as if, apart from Spider-Man, I ain't posed him for fucking 3 weeks. Like Hulk, for example, just basically stood there, but still got a rotation through his waist and through his shoulders, slightly dipped on his right hand side, just stood there. Iron Man in front of him, pretty casual, 1 foot up, but still try and get it so it looks very human. Same with Cap. And so not much, they're not really 3 different poses, but they all look different, so that is basically what goes through my mind. So anyway boys, I hope I've distracted you away from Black Friday for long enough, but for now it's the Clipper King and I'm out of here.